All right. Hi, Nam.
Hey, yo, Jay.
Hey, so it's finally over. We have gone through all four Batman movies. The
All
original.
right.
The,
Yeah,
the,
I was
the,
gonna say we've gone through the four movies that we first watched, not the
mhm.
Nolans, not the new Matt Reeves, which we may talk about later. But Jeremy, we made it.
Yes.
We're done. We did
Yes.
it. We did it.
Yes, man, I am worn out. I was worn out from the editing. I was worn out of going through all those movies. I was worn out as we're going to be going to or talk about our villains pick. But for the listeners, if this is your first video watching it, we have gone through the 89, the Return, the Forever, and the Batman and Robin. We have gone through the Tim Burns and the Schumacher set, which is 2 each. And in this particular episode, we promise that we are going to go through our villain gallery and we're going to rank our 10 villains that we have picked out of all four movies on here. And we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to work our way up to the top. So, be excited for what we're going to do. So with that further ado, let's just go ahead and get straight into it. I mean, for anybody that wants to hear more of our information, our thoughts, and our questions about the movies, go watch our previous ones. They're all on YouTube. Check it out. So with that being said, let's go with our number 10 as is probably our worst villain that we think out of all of the Schumacher and Tim Burton films. So for me, number 10 goes to Poison Ivy.
All right. So my number 10, guys, and the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna name off our ranks, and then we're just gonna go with why. So my number 10, Bane.
Okay. All right. Poison Ivy is considered the worst because they really didn't know what to do with her. There was so much potential that she could have gone a lot better than it should. The way that she became was ridiculous. The way that the direction that they wanted to take her in was ridiculous. I think she was it was miscasted. Regardless of the situation, as a villain in this movie, she didn't really do anything that made me shocked about it. So she's number 10 for me.
Bane's number 10 for me because if I ask you what did he do, you're going to be like nothing.
Okay.
And I agree.
Okay. All right.
So
Number 9.
Number 9. Number 9 for me in this one, even though she's very hot, I'm going with Catwoman.
Okay. For number 9 for me, I go with Bane.
All right, Jeremy, you tell me why Bane for you actually made it up to number 9 and not number 10.
I disagree with you. I think Bane did more stuff to me than Poison Ivy honestly kind of did in effect. I think that even you might not think he did anything, but he did follow the commands that Poison Ivy told him to do, so he did his job.
I mean, technically speaking, if you think Ivy is bad and he follows her, wouldn't that not be a level below though? I mean, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But at least he accomplished his goals that he was told. Poison Ivy did not accomplish her goals that she was trying to do.
Because she didn't do it, is it if just because she didn't do it, but she told him to do it, isn't that on her and not on him?
No, because she got killed by her own plans.
Okay. She didn't die. She didn't die. She still lived.
Oh, that's right. She did live. That's how bad I don't care about her. I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. You got
sorry.
I got you.
No, I think overall, Bane was just more entertaining than Poison Ivy to me in this. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I go with Catwoman on number 9 because honestly, I don't really consider her a villain, but she did a little bit more than Bane, and I only say a little bit more because we don't know who was in that convenience store when it blew up. So she also killed Shrek. That is more of a superhero type of thing. I don't know if she necessarily belongs in the rogue gallery, but to be fair, I think you're obviously going to remember her more than you're going to remember her doing more than you would ever remember Bane doing anything. So
Okay. All right.
All right.
With that being said, we'll go to number 8, which is Catwoman for me.
And number 8 for me is Bob.
Okay. So for Bob, why is he number 8?
Bob really didn't do anything villainous that I could remember. I mean, he didn't really kill anybody. He was definitely the right-hand man for Joker. He was very protective and he was really cool. But he was kind of like the man in the chair, as Spider-Man would have you describe the Asian guy in that movie. He was kind of like the man in the chair, the sidekick. I guess he would do the dirty work, but then again, Joker really did all the work anyways, as far as the dirty work was concerned. So Bob, to me, albeit very cool, just didn't do as much. Didn't do that much as a villain.
Okay. Catwoman. Yes, I agree. She's not really a villain, but killing Shrek, I mean, I would argue that's a villain killing another villain. I mean, they're both bad in their own way. So, in that aspect, I think that her determination stood out from everybody else's on this list and down below. That at least it felt like she accomplished her goal of whatever thing that she wanted to do. I don't think Bane can do his accomplishment. I don't think Poison Ivy got her accomplishment. Out of everybody so far, she accomplished it. So, yep.
There you go. So number 7, my number 7, and Jeremy and my top, like bottom 4 have been kind of like the same, just kind of mixed up. Poison Ivy, number 7.
Really? Okay. Yeah. All right. Number 7 for me has to be Bob. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's literally our 4 bottom ones are exactly the same, just mixed up. Ivy, for me, I think she did kind of go out there and do villainous things. She put the Batman and Robin against each other with her pheromones, which apparently is something that she consistently does, but I just never really noticed because I always think that she has control of her plants. She did end up offing a couple people in the movie. She kissed and killed the scientist that helped create her. And I know that she's kissed and killed a couple other people. So I think she is villainous in that way, but more villainous than the other 3 perceived that we've talked about for sure.
Bob is number also on this list of that number is because mainly he is probably out of everyone on this list. He's the most loyal henchman out of all of them. And you got loyalty is really important when you're coming a villain. I think he deserves a little up in there. You're right. He doesn't do a lot per se. It seems like he does a lot, but he spied. He did some photography.
He's cool, right?
Yeah, he's cool. But he was going to, even though he didn't kill anybody, he was on the floor of killing somebody if shit hits the fan, right? I mean, he was going to kill one of the cops that pulled a gun on the Joker. He was going to kill Gordon if Batman didn't put Joker down. So Bob, it's not that Bob wouldn't kill. It's just he never got to the position that he wanted to kill somebody unless he had to. And to me, that's deadly. That if it's down, he's down. Now, sadly enough, he got killed by his own person. That's still loyalty. He would die for him, and he did. So
I think the argument goes is that if a tree falls into a forest, does it make a noise? I mean, if Bob doesn't kill in the movie, does he really?
You're right.
I mean, it's fair though.
But I will say though this, and I'm moving on. Is out of everyone on this list below, maybe not including Catwoman, but when Bob died, I think people felt it, and they were saddened. Everybody else. So
yeah, most definitely. All right, going into our number 6 choice, Jeremy. What is your number 6?
Riddler. He is number 6 for me. Yes.
I think this is a fair conversation because I think the two that we're both. I'll bet you the next 2 are probably going to be the same ones that we have just switched. I go with Two-Face on this one.
Okay.
All right, Jeremy, you tell me why you chose the Riddler.
Riddler is so entertaining and his determination was really cool, but it didn't pay off in a way that I wanted to be. And he could have been more diabolical than it seems, and it's just a disappointment. Out of everyone on this list so far, he had the best chance to literally take over the city.
Okay. I go with Two-Face, and I don't disagree with you on the Riddler because I think between the two, I had to figure out which one I wanted to put on top of the other. Two-Face had every right and reason to be more ruthless, and in fact, I think they portrayed him as more ruthless in the movies. But it was ruthless to individuals and not necessarily to a wider span. So I think that's the reason why I have Two-Face a little bit lower on the list for me.
It seems like the common ground is these both characters did not go to their full potential that we wanted them to.
Yes.
And that's the same way I do for number 5. That is Two-Face. You are correct, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Which
my number 5, guys, no surprise here, Riddler.
Okay. It's the same thing. I will say, though, Two-Face gets a bump up only because, you know, he actually, I like the fact that he put a lot of determination to try to do something. I think Riddler is the one that hold him back from being really ruthless because, like, he was trying to kill Batman every chance he got. You know, even misfire and shot Bruce Wayne right on, like, almost the forehead. So it was tempting to happen. So, yeah.
I mean, I go with Riddler because I would say that his plans actually were somewhat executed and he had more of a worldwide domination plan, which is, as a villain, you kind of want to see that, right? As to me, Two-Face would have done it one person at a time. I think the Riddler wanted it all, but it was all foiled because of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Or them kids, Scooby-Doo and them kids.
Okay.
But that's the reason why I had the Riddler. So on number 4, Jeremy, I bet you we have the same one.
Mr. Freeze?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you got Mr. Freeze. I got Shrek.
Okay. The reason why I picked Mr. Freeze is because Mr. Freeze did kind of accomplish his goal. What Riddler didn't do, Freeze did. He froze in the whole world. I mean, he froze in the whole Gotham City, you know, out of revenge of his misconception of his wife getting killed and the fact that he, even though his plan didn't make sense, that he was going to hold the city for ransom and he could have used the diamonds to get what he wants, regardless, though. At least, you know, his plans were really funny in a cool way. Like, secretly, let's be honest, he did kill a lot of people. He frozen people to death. And a lot of people don't have 11 minutes to get out of the situation they need to do. So he actually did a lot of work that a lot of people will say, way more than Riddler and Two-Face to me. So, yeah.
I went with Shrek because in the end, I think Shrek was ultimately more villainous than any of the ones that we talked before. And arguably, to me, he could probably be in the top 3. But I didn't let him fall into the top 3 because in the end, I mean, yes, he did kill a good handful of people, and he was very corporate as far as killing. And he used Penguin as a puppet to do his bidding. But he fell way short. Like, he wasn't thinking big enough to actually be in control of what was going on. Like, he had an idea. He wanted to get what he thought was going to be power for himself. It just didn't end up being that way. Because the 2 or 3 people that he actually killed, there was other people who had more maniacal plans. He was up there. He did kill a bunch of people, but he wasn't thinking big picture enough. That's the reason why he is number 4. Our top 3, Jeremy. So number 3?
Shrek,
okay. Number 3 for me is the Joker.
Okay. Why the Joker?
So, yes, I do think the Joker had a very villainous way of doing this. I think he was very entertaining, and he did end up offing quite a bit of people. I felt that the other 2 that I put on this higher on the list did more villainous things. I think in the Joker long term, if he had lived, would have been way worse. But in this universe that we're sitting here talking about, I don't know, gassing people, killing them with his makeup. Like, I feel like there should have been way more. I guess the way they portrayed it in the movies, I would feel that there was way more deaths that should have happened, but they didn't really portray it that way. So I don't feel like he really hit that extra notch that I thought he should have been as number 1.
Okay. Shrek is interesting because I actually argue in my head, like, should Shrek be a little bit bottom? I think Shrek did such a good job of where you might want Joker to go. If you kind of think about it, maybe you want a Joker to be like more diabolical as Shrek. That's probably what's missing. And I feel like Shrek is missing what Joker probably has. But I think Shrek had this idea of, maybe in my mind, of he wants to own the city, not almost like take over, like not take over, says own the city where he can be untouchable, and using everybody as a puppet to do that. I think that's a lot more evil than I think a lot of people think that is. Plus, the fact that even Tim Burton's Catwoman has 9 lives, he was willing to down all 9 of them if he could. And that's pretty crazy, because even though Catwoman stopped Shrek, I was more intrigued, like, how far was Shrek would have gone. And I think that's what would have been scary about him being a villain. So, and especially, it's kind of interesting that Shrek, maybe I'm wrong, maybe he exists in the comics, but for my mindset, I think he's a made-up character for this. And I thought that was pretty impressive that we have a made-up character that secretly was a very evil person in that way. So,
I agree. Top 2. So obviously, if we'll tell you guys what our number 2 is, you guys can guess who our number 1 is. Jeremy, my number 2 pick in the NBA draft is, my number 2 pick in this rogue gallery is the Penguin.
Okay. All right. So my number 2 is also the Penguin.
Interesting. The Penguin, to me, ended up being the guy that could take over the city. The only thing that really kept him from doing that was obviously Batman, and just him saying some things to Batman. He had this plan to kill a bunch of children. Like, that's, I don't know how evil you're going to get. He had this plan that he was going to kill a bunch of children. If you thought Shrek was evil, he was the guy that Shrek couldn't keep under control. And I think that right there tells you how politically savvy he is. And for a guy to look like that and be like that and actually almost win over the city is insane. Like, you have to be very cunning, very evil to be that way. So he is number 2 on this list.
It's funny you mention that, because I think out of all the villains, the movie shows the Penguin really doing that. But I think if we pan out a little bit, you really think about a lot of these villains like Freeze and Riddler, I think kids were also involved in this. The difference is it just really focused on this particular moment for Penguin. But if you think about it, Freeze freezing the whole city, I mean, could have killed some kids in the aspect of that. Riddler controlling the minds of people, could have hurt some kids doing that. But the fact that the Penguin had a really major focus on kids only because of his childhood is kind of nuts. I think it's the reason why I think Penguin's number 2, because I think he's just crazy. Out of all the people on this list, I think he's the most craziest. He's the craziest person.
And horniest too, but
yeah, I mean, yes, he was born, unfortunately in an awful way and everything like that. But just to go that crazy and thinking that he can get easily manipulated to get the gains that he wants. Or who knows, maybe he didn't get manipulated. Maybe he knew Shrek was playing him and he was trying to play him in his own way. I'm not 100% sure. But at the same time, he had the most determination than any of these villains down below my list. He was just crazy nuts. And just the fact that Tim Burton's version really leaned into that of him being a penguin, on top of that, eating fish, all this stuff. He was gross. He was disgusting. None of these characters have gone that level of, like, disgusting. Like, he's the most disgusting character on this list, and I loved it. So, and I agree with whatever Nom says. So
there you go. And our number 1, which I'm sure you guys can guess, out of the process of elimination, for me, is Mr. Freeze.
And, of course, and not trying to be biased, but I have my reasons, and that is the Joker.
The reason why Mr. Freeze is number 1, Jeremy actually kind of touched on it. He did not give any Fs. He killed anyone and everyone he could do. Like, his mind was very simplistic. It was, you killed my wife, I am about to kill you all. Mm-hmm. And we almost saw that. Like, honestly, we almost saw that. He completely froze everyone. Now, granted, they had time to get away as far as like be melted some miraculous way by George Clooney and his Batman. And you can argue because it was George Clooney and his Batman that Mr. Freeze should be ranked lower. But let's not forget about the corniness of how he is. He tried to kill everyone with no remorse whatsoever. And not only did he do that, he had dad jokes to make while he was doing that. So, Mr. Freeze, number one for me.
Joker's number one for me because just like Nam says, I think Joker's the same way. I don't think he gets 0 Fs either about his situation. Once you're almost near death, do you really care anymore? No. You're only thinking about yourself at this point. And, you saw him work his way to the top, taking out certain people, from the electric buzz. He just did it with so much better class. And what he believed, what he wanted to get. The only thing, of course, was holding back was Batman. But if Batman wasn't there, he would have taken over this whole city. People would probably majorly got hurt, and he wouldn't even care. Honestly, to tell the truth, I think he's so crazy that he would take over the city, and then he would just dump it. I think that's how crazy he really is. And I just love I think out of all of them, I think he had the best determination when it came to just getting what he wants in that way. It's kind of weird in my own mind how that is. And maybe that could be a biased mind, but I love the fact that through his first death with the buzzer with the mob, I love the way that he was going to gas everybody for the hell of it. You're talking about like those Mr. Freeze, like Joker. Honestly, at that parade, we don't know how many people he killed at that parade. They could have been a lot.
I think that's the biggest thing. Right? I think that's the reason why I chose Mr. Freeze over Joker, right? Because I think the way they portrayed it, they didn't portray it as well as they could have. Like they went darker with Penguin, right, in Tim Burton's universe, and that was the only problem I think I had with the two. But ultimately, you're not wrong, man.
Yeah, and I think also too due to the rated, if it was a lot higher, like a PG-13 something, maybe that would have been a different story. But we have to take it for what it is. So because of we didn't get to see the effects of what Joker did, that is a downfall. But the fact that we still saw the attempt to still do it. So to me, that's why he's number one for me. So
that's fair. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, that is our 10, and we are finally done with all of these Batmans. Let's move on to the newest ones. If you like our stuff, guys, as always, hit that like button, help us out, trying to spread the love out to everyone, hit that algorithm, and then subscribe. If you don't like us, just move on to the next video.
But, of course, you're not done, because we would love to hear your top 10 out of the ranks that all the villains we put. So leave a comment down below and tell us your thoughts and your rank of who do you think is the number one best villain out of the 80s and 90s Batman. That is the Tim Burton and Joe Schumacher. So with that, thank you so much, and we will catch you on our next episode.
Boom.